For today's guest star, I will now introduce the lovely Giovanna Ragusa. She is a close friend of mine and one of my roommates. We share everything from sharing a dorm together to her unwillingly sharing her toothpaste with me. But we do not share the same ambitions in life. She is a psych major, but don't tell her that it's a blow-off major, because she works her actual butt off day in and out. She is definitely going to be one of the most unimpressed teachers that every kid is going to want the utter respect of. She thinks that I might end up sweeping popcorn at a movie theater for my foreseeable future, which I certainly wouldn't be opposed to. It might be better than some of my other life plans. She undoubtedly has her life together, and I undoubtedly do not. So, like I said, we have different life paths. But today, I thought it would be fun if she walked a bit in my shoes as an English major and dissected the poem Abecedarian, requiring further examination of Anglikan Seraphym, Subjugation of a Wild Indian Reservation by Natalie Diaz. That's a mouthful. Maybe tomorrow I will start my hand diagnosing dogs with psychological conditions, or whatever the case studies that she tells me she writes for her major are about. For today's episode, I will give Jo a copy of the poem, and I will read it out to her. I will ask her a series of questions about the poem and her interpretation, and then I will give her my interpretation back to her. Abecedarian, and I think I actually said it correctly that time, Abecedarian, requiring further examination of Anglikan Seraphym, Subjugation of a Wild Indian Reservation, by Natalie Diaz. Angels don't come to the reservation. Bats, maybe, or owls, boxy, mottled things. Coyotes, too. They all mean the same thing, death. And death eats angels, I guess, because I haven't seen an angel fly through this valley ever. Gabriel? Never heard of him. Know a guy named Gabe, though. He came through here one powwow and stayed. Typical Indian. Sure, he had wings. Jailbird that he was. He flies around in stolen cars. Wherever he stops, kids grow like gourds from women's bellies. Like I said, no Indian I've ever heard of has ever been or seen an angel. Maybe in a Christmas pageant or something. Nazarene Church holds one every December, organized by Pastor John's wife. It's no wonder Pastor John's son is the angel. Everyone knows angels are white. Quit bothering with angels, I say. They're no good for Indians. Remember what happened last time? Some white god came floating across the ocean? Truth is, there may be angels, but if there are angels up there, living on clouds or sitting on thrones across the sea wearing velvet robes and golden rings, drinking whiskey from silver cups, we're better off if they stay rich and fat and ugly and exactly where they are, in their own distant heavens. You better hope you never see angels on the res. If you do, they'll be marching you off to Zion or Oklahoma or some other hell they've mapped out for us. So this is take 2 because somehow I completely didn't record the first time. And so now Jo knows all the answers, but we're going to try to recreate the conversation like we originally did it. Okay, you ready, Jo?
Yes.
Okay. So what do you notice about the physical form of the poem?
So I'm, not technically sure what the physical, what that technically means, but at first glance, it seems as though there's a lot of, breaks in the language, that, to me, don't seem to have any, maybe, particular order or anything, but there seems to be, a lot of breaks and pauses in places.
Okay, good job. That's very right. So, the form of the poem is what's called an Abecedarian, and so each line starts with an A to Z letter in sequential order, and so the pauses and stuff are enjambment, which is like breaking up the flow of the sentences so it's like down a line, and those are so that the poem can fit into the A to Z pattern that it holds.
Interesting. Yeah.
So, what do you think that this form says about the contents of the poem?
After reading it over a few times, it seems to be making a statement about white culture being imposed upon Native peoples and their way of life. And so I feel like it's kind of ironic that the author is almost like showing the basis of American schooling and like American or white culture even, in that it's following the English alphabet. So it's kind of interesting to see how she talks about how like an angel as like the personification of, not personification, like the representation of like colonization, at the same time that she's, you know, talking against the suppression of Native Americans by colonists and colonization. She also is perfectly portraying like the basis of that schooling as like, you know, reading, writing, and arithmetic, and like it's like a perfect representation of like white culture pretty much.
Yeah, I think that's like totally correct. So like my interpretation of the poem is that the form has a lot to do with, like you said, the colonizers like imposing their own culture on the indigenous people in America. So like it's kind of a statement about like the loss of language and the loss of culture through like while utilizing like European language.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for trying out your acting skills tonight.
You're welcome.
Because I accidentally deleted the whole thing. I think she did a very good job at acting.
Well, I messed up a little bit, but I tried my best to recreate what I originally said.
I don't think you messed up.
Okay,
You're good. Okay, so thank you for coming on my podcast today, Joe.
Of course, it was an honor. Thank you for
And
having me.
Thank you for letting me terrorize you with poetry.
That's okay. I need to learn more about poetry anyways.
It's not so scary now that you've like seen it, right?
Yeah, no. I think I need to delve a little deeper into the world of poetry.
Basically just the ABCs for this one.
Right, yeah. And like, you know, like the colonization of a whole people, but
also the ABCs.
Yes.
And to my listeners, please have a good day.